Creamer Media's Mining Weekly is speaking to South African Diamond Producers Organisation Chairperson Gert van Niekerk and also the South African Diamond Producers Organisation Deputy Chairperson Lyndon de Mailon. Lyndon, can you please kick off with giving us a background to what Sadpo is involved with, in particularly the Northern Cape, but in South Africa in general?
South Africa have been blessed with, in diamonds, we're also blessed with a lot of kimberlites. We've got this nice piece of craton sitting over the central part of Southern Africa that allowed many of the kimberlites that intruded into this craton to keep their diamonds. Subsequent erosion after that have led to secondary deposits, and these are the alluvial deposits that we are mining as alluvial diamond miners of South Africa. What's happened in the past is that most of the mining and most of our production, and probably for the next foreseeable future, it will still be like that, will come from kimberlites. But we are saying that the alluvial diamonds are playing a more and more important role in terms of job creation. And because we've got so many alluvial deposits in South Africa, we are saying that they should be playing a more prominent role in the economy and in terms of job creation. The problem is that the regulations have always been written for the big kimberlite mines that produces a very specific population of diamonds. The diamonds that we produce are significantly different to the population of diamonds from the kimberlites. Though they are still from the same source, the weathering process have upgraded our population in that we've got a much higher percentage of gem quality diamonds. So our grades and everything is a lot different to that as of kimberlite diamonds, and we are saying that we should have more specific regulation that allows us to mine these low-grade deposits easier. Now, to illustrate this, I'm going to show you some graphs of an operation of mine that I had on the Reed River about 2 years ago to show you how different our populations are to that of kimberlites. Now, this is the average diamond value over 11 months period, and there you can see the fluctuation every month, how it varies. The populations in the kimberlite is a lot more homogeneous, where alluvials is a lot more unpredictable. The next slide shows the average diamond size, and of course there's a link between the average diamond size and the average diamond values, but you can see there's huge variations. The average for this deposit was about close to 2 carats, but you have variations from just above 1.2 up to about 2.2. So these are things that makes our mining of our deposits more difficult, and the economical predictability of it more difficult. This is the grade fluctuation over 11 months period. And there you can see there's huge fluctuations in grade because a diamond is a heavy mineral that gets concentrated in very specific areas in a deposit by water. And you get these huge fluctuations in grade as well. And all this tied together comes down to income versus expenses. There you can see over this 11 months period, we only made money for about 5 of the 11 months period. And this is typical for most alluvial operations in South Africa, this highly fluctuating income versus expenses. Now, in today's market, if you want to mine these low-grade deposits, and low-grade, I'm talking about 0.25 CPHT, carats per 100 tons, and that's typical for the Northern Cape. You need to process about 60,000 tons a month. Now, we always talk about pans because our processing goes through pans. We say a 2-pan setup is probably the minimum that you need today for these types of grades to be successful. Now, for that, you employ about 50 people, 2 pans, and the grade at about 2.25 CPHT gives you about 150 carats per month. And at an average size of around about 3, that's about 50 stones a month that you produce. As a junior diamond miner with 2 pans today. Now, just to give that to you visually, that's probably a bit less than 150 carats, but that's a typical photograph of a monthly production from a 2-pan setup. And as you can see, there's 1 stone there, and often this is the case, that 1 stone represents 75 to 80% of your value per month. If you don't find that stone, you're in trouble. The rest of the stones will not cover your expenses. So in a nutshell, that is what our business is about. You know, it's about tons, and it's about finding these really special stones, especially in the Northern Cape and along the Middle Orange River. It's a unique population, but you've got unique economic circumstances that allows you to operate them. And the current regulations that we have makes it very difficult for us to mine these economically.
And what specifically would you like in those regulations? And if the regulations were tailored to you, how would this benefit South Africa and its people?
Look, alluvial operations are all about job creation. We know not the money spinners that a kimberlite mine can be. You know, as Johannesburg and those are some of the most profitable mines that you can have in the world. Alluvial operations is about survival. We can't go out there and build hospitals and build schools, but we can create job opportunities in the areas where there are no jobs. These deposits are situated in the most rural areas of Southern Africa, where unemployment is not 25%, it's not 35%, it's not 40%, it's 75% or 80%. But we can create jobs in those areas. And that's the most significant thing that alluvial operations can do. It's marginal, but it creates jobs. It's labor intensive, but we can create jobs. And that's the big contribution we can make to the economy of South Africa.
And how many jobs do you think you could create if you had the correct and appropriate legislative framework to work in?
Martin, our studies have shown that we probably have another 100 years of resource left in South Africa at the current mining rate. So if we can make it easier for us to look a 5 or 10% difference in prices, for example, that we get makes a huge difference on our bottom line. 5% on our selling price is probably a 20-25% difference in profit. So if we can have regulation that makes it easier for us to sell our diamonds, to get our permits in quicker succession, and we don't have to wait so long for permits, to make environmental, or the whole range of regulations for us is difficult because we are small miners, and most of the regulations, health and safety, environmental, everything in South Africa was written for the bigger mines. We need to see how we can change these to suit the junior mining sector in South Africa. Our future in South Africa for most kinds of minerals is in the junior sector, and it's the regulations are not there at this point in time.
For us to create these jobs, we need to streamline and run a very, very tight budget. And every cent we can save, we have to save. So what happens in practice, and I've been in this game, I thought about it this morning, 43 years now, which is a lifetime to many others. And a part of us still surviving is we've got a passion for our side of the industry. It's not always about making huge fortunes, but obviously we do need to make profit in order to survive. But if you compare our profitability to the job creating abilities that we have, it must be considered by government to assist us in making it easier. It is unfortunate, and I think the term is very familiar with you, the one-size-fits-all issue is a problem and has been a problem for many years. In terms of our regulatory compliance issues that we have to deal with, we look at laws and regulations that was written for the bigger mines. And us on the diamond side specifically has a unique method. The closest we can get to this would probably be the clay brick and Aspaza people, but it's an open cast, shallow type of mining, and where the risk factors aren't as big as what it is at the bigger mines. And we're not for one instance trying to imply that we want to neglect the health and safety of our people, but we think that there is a lot of improvement possible in terms of making it more affordable. And I want to emphasize the finances around this, the affordability around this. Wherever we can save, it is important to note that we might survive a bit longer. At the end of the day, from my side, it is also very important to note that Sadpo as an organization has grown over the past few years, especially now during COVID. We received application for quite a number of new members, and they all joined. And at the moment, it's a bit of a guesstimate, but we represent close to 65% of all alluvial diamond miners in South Africa. What is important also in terms of our significance, we produce in the vicinity of plus minus 2% of the production of diamond production in South Africa. That is weight-wise, whilst the value of our production is between 25 and 30% of the total value of diamond production in South Africa. We have been notified that there is new legislation on its way. It's currently being drafted in terms of more aimed at the artisanal miners, but they also want to include the small-scale miners. Now, it's always been an issue to find the correct definition of what a small-scale miner is, and what, if you look at other commodities, it is easy to look on the one hand at employment, and secondly at turnover. But us on the diamond side, even the artisanal miner might find a nice special stone with his pick and shovel, and that would create him falling into a turnover category that would not suit his method of mining. So from our side, we are quite adamant that we must look at the use of the number of people we employ to define. But this is currently a process where Sadpo is involved. And I don't want to, at this stage, comment where we're standing, but Sadpo is definitely trying to highlight the fact that diamond mining specifically is different to the other commodities and should be treated as such. Whether we're going to be successful in convincing our governing bodies that legislation has to be commodity specific is another story that we haven't got the answers on. But surely from our side, I am convinced, and I'm forever an optimist. You have to be if you're an alluvial miner. But I think we can grow back to where we were in the year 2000. The number of miners were 2,000 in the year 2000, whilst they down to 200. At that stage, the employment was 25,000 people, which was more than 50% of what the total diamond industry employed at that stage. Currently, we're down to about 6,000 people, which is not quite 50% of the total employment. But that is also due to the effectiveness of the, let's call it a little bit bigger scale. But what we intend is to see that government makes it easy for new entrants to come in. And the smaller the operation, the higher the job creating ability becomes. A bigger operation, like Lyndon mentioned, a 24-hour shift, it's 2 teams of plus minus 25. An operation about 25% of that size will use like eight people. If they do 24 hours, they'll employ 16 people. But at the end of the day, the much needed opportunities where we operate will be created if we do find a more user-friendly legislative system.
Are you environmentally friendly?
I must unfortunately say that in the past, that is now in the 80s, 70s and 80s, unfortunately, the alluvial miners did not rehabilitate as they should have. But currently, we are really environmentally friendly. We use no chemicals in our processes. I am adamant that the quality of water we put back into the system is actually better than what we receive it from the current systems that we draw our water from. So yes, sure, we have to look out for endangered species in terms of the flora, but the process that we're going through is, in my personal opinion, too elaborate. And I can also tell you that from environmental side, they're also looking from government's point of view, which is all positive news to me, but to look at a more simplified process for us to be able to get our permits and rights. All of these issues currently, it's costing for a small 5-hectare mining permit. Just the application before the guy has bought one pick or shovel or wheelbarrow, it's costing him in the vicinity of 150,000 Rand. And that is the part that we're trying to address now. That shouldn't be more than 5,000 Rand, in our opinion. The second thing is, we also want to, through this process, if we could call it, accommodate and formalize the illegal side. Because I've interviewed quite a number of these so-called zamazamas in the diamond industry. And 90% of them indicated that they would have preferred doing this legally. But the process they have to go through is they first of all have to have the mentioned 150,000, after which they have to wait for 12 to 18 months before they get the right, while illegally they can just buy the pick, shovel and wheelbarrow and a small sieve, and they start tonight. And that is the unfortunate part of the situation. And with that, obviously, we also seeing an illegal trade in the product itself, which is not healthy to the country at all.
If we had to compare our alluvial diamond endowment in South Africa, if we had to compare that with any other country, where do we stand in this alluvial space?
In terms of value per carat, there's no other deposits in the world that come close to South Africa. I mean, if you talk about Middle Orange River, Douglas Prieska areas, Hopetown areas, we're talking average values between $2,000 to $2,500 per carat. In some areas, I've worked deposits that average value is higher than $5,000 a carat, and that's unheard of. I mean, if you think that the world average dollar per carat value is around about $100, it just gives you some indication of where we sit. Our diamond population is unique, and it's not only unique, there's nothing in the world that comes close to it. Angola probably has more deposits left and higher grades than we have, but their average value is a lot lower. If you talk to a diamond buyer and ask him if there's one country in the world where if you can choose, if there's only one country that you can buy diamonds from, who will it be? And they'll say it's South Africa, but because they can get the whole range of diamonds in South Africa, and they can get the really top quality, high value stuff here. So our deposits are unique. We still have huge volumes left, but the grades are low, and we need special circumstances, special regulation and legislation to allow us to mine these profitably. And our deposits are such that we can cater for the artisanal miners, we can cater for the small miners, and we can cater for the junior miners. But for all of them, the rules are similar. It's not a money spinner. You've got to be very careful about your costs and how you spend your money. And if you spend too much on complying to legislation and regulation, you cannot make it. And that's a real sad story about South Africa. Because of over-regulation, we have lost probably 15,000 jobs in the alluvial diamond mining industry.
Are we marketing well?
There's definitely things we need to look at there. There are times when the market is strong in the world where you get your best prices for your stones in South Africa. But if the market is difficult, like it has been for the past 2 years, there are times when you get your best prices overseas. So you got to be very careful where you market your diamonds. It's not always for us, the small guys, easy to export our diamonds. We have to pay a levy. And if you don't want to pay the levy, then you've got to have to beneficiate 15% of your value of your carats. And that for the small guys is difficult. If you're a big diamond producer, a kimberlite producer where you have a wide range of diamonds of all qualities, it becomes a lot easier. But for us, as a small guy who produces maybe 150 carats a month, and you want to export some of that, but at the same time, you have to beneficiate 15% in order to get that 5% discount, or to be exempted from this export levy. Your cash flow does not allow you to do it. So these are things that makes it difficult. But I think we do have quite a well-organized selling mechanism in terms of tenders. Most of us sell on tenders, and it works quite well for us. But the flexibility of, in difficult times, selling where we want to, makes it, it impacts on our profit line.
We need to expose our diamonds as wide as possible, including the international buyers. Now, our local system currently only allows for authorized representatives on local diamond dealers' licenses. So in other words, international companies became authorized representatives on the local diamond dealer's license, and in that way we were able to expose our diamonds to the international side as well. But currently, with them not being able to travel here, our production is being valued and offered by virtually only the local buyers. I do know that they look at it virtually to a certain extent and so forth, but a diamond is a unique and not an exact science commodity. I always use the example, you can have the world's 10 best gemologists around the table and send one diamond around that table, and I guarantee you'll get probably out of the 10, 6 different answers, depending on how they see and how they anticipate it being manufactured, etc., etc. So therefore, our only counter to that is by exposing our production as widely as possible. And to do that, in the meantime, what Sadpo did from their side officially is we, through the Minerals Council of South Africa, applied for a 6 months vacation on the 5% export levy in terms of diamonds. That's applicable not to all of us, but to specifically us on the smaller side. Because we market fragmentedly, you know, it's all the small productions coming together at the tender houses. It is so difficult to, of course, you as a producer are allowed to register as an exporter, but that process in itself is taking up to 6 months to a year to get that registration through and so forth. So what we are trying to establish with the 6 months vacation is to get our house in order, to register what needs to be registered. But in the meantime, at least we save on the 5% export levy, exposing our diamonds internationally as best we can. It is also a fact that I don't know about the last tender so much, but a couple of tenders that we ran since we were able to during the COVID period. I mean, there was a significant difference in the prices locally as compared to international. And therefore, my personal opinion is that we must take our diamonds to the buyers and not wait for the buyers to come to our diamonds. We do have the buyers here in South Africa as well, but the competition factor is important in my personal opinion, and therefore I'm strongly pressing for this export levy to at least be temporarily put aside. 80% of the world's diamonds are cut in India. So they really experts in what they are doing. Whilst on our side, we fully support and understand the beneficiation processes we want to promote within the boundaries of our country. But at the same time, we must also look at our tight profit margins that we're having. And if it's costing us as little as 5 or 3 or 2%, it might affect our ability to survive in the end. And at the same time, the job creating possibilities within the mining side of the alluvial diamonds are so much more in terms of the numbers as compared to what we're looking at people possible to be employed by the manufacturing side.
That was Creamer Media's Mining Weekly, speaking to Sadpo's chairperson Gert van Niekerk and Sadpo deputy chairperson Lyndon de Meilon.